Hello, all you wonderful folks out there. Welcome to the Into the Song podcast, a place where we spend some quality time with a songwriter discovering what makes their song tick. I'm Doug Harsh, your faithful host. Please join me as we go into the song. On today's podcast, I talk with Nate Butler. He and his wife, Amber, are the nucleus of the band Shiny Shiny Black. Nate is one of the busier musicians I know. He splits his time between the band, producing local musicians, editing radio shows, and a whole gamut of other projects. And even though he spends a lot of time impacting the world around him, he still finds time for the most important things, like stopping for a lovely moment with his daughter when she interrupted our interview. But enough about Nate. Let's get into the song. All right. Well, thanks for saying yes to the invitation to talk about a song.
Well, sure.
I appreciate that, man. So, you and I have known each other for quite a while.
Yeah. Do you remember how we met?
Yeah, the first time I met you was you guys were running some sort of outreach program at your church. And you were having bands there and stuff. So
the Crossroads Cafe.
Yeah. So, but I don't think we've ever really sat down and talked about, writing songs.
No, we've always talked about mixing songs or
getting gigs or such. Yeah.
Or how to get along with your frustrating bandmates.
Well, that too. And then, we ended up where I ended up doing some recording for you. I think for first, I think your little combo, your little band that you were playing with. I don't mean to say little, minimum.
No, it was very little.
But it was a trio, I think.
Yep. Well, it was four when we showed up at your studio, and about 3 hours later, it was three.
Oh, there you go. Oh,
that was a good time.
So, and then, and I think a couple more times, a couple of little one-off kind of song projects you did. You kind of came over and we did some recording, did some damage, and now you're quite an accomplished producer in your own right.
Thanks. Yeah.
So as it turns out, the song that you chose for us to talk about and go, into the song together is a song that actually you invited me to do some singing on.
Yeah. And thank you for doing that, by the way.
Oh, you're very welcome. It was a blast, and I think it turned out fantastic. I didn't realize the depth of, I thought it was just gang vocals at the end, but there's all kind of fun stuff going on in the song. And so I think people are going to definitely enjoy it. I think I might, if you don't mind, post a link to both the version that's just, I would say, just Shiny Shiny Black by themselves, but also the one with all the friends involved, because I think hearing both is a really cool experience.
Oh, cool. I just to tip my hand a little bit, the first version of that, the Shiny Shiny Black version, is basically a glorified demo. I wouldn't even call that a produced song, in the sense that I decided kind of a week after the shutdown, the COVID-19 shutdown happened, that song needed to be out in the world. And it needed to be good enough that the quality wasn't going to be distracting. In other words, it couldn't sound like crap. But I also, we were at home. I had all my recording gear at my house, not at my studio. So all of the sounds that you hear on that song are, in the first version, are done with just some very basic programming, MIDI programming. And I actually plugged my guitars straight into my interface and used an amp emulator for the bass and for the guitar. So that's not even real amplifiers on that song.
Well, we won't hold that against you or anything.
No, I actually think it's really cool that there is the tools available, that in a situation like this, that those didn't have to become obstacles to us being able to put a song out in the wild, you know?
Oh, definitely, and nor should it ever. I mean, I think that we often think that in order to kind of make something musical, we have to use certain sort of approaches and tools, right? But the act of creating is the whole thing, right? I mean, no matter what
Right.
limitations you have, no matter what you do or don't have on hand, I think that, you know, the act of creation is what connects with people. And so I thought it was great. In fact, I wanted to ask you about the genesis of the song itself because I thought I heard kind of a loop in there or a part that was looping,
Hmm.
and I wondered if that was kind of where things started or what kind of started you down the road of this song.
Oh, funny. This song in particular is an idea I've had floating around for at least 3 years in my head as kind of like a theme. And I'd probably say about 2 months ago, I was thinking about, and this song was in a list of, song we are planning on putting out a full length record this year, and this was, we had like 9 songs done in a some kind of lyrics and some kind of a form. And this one was one that wasn't done, but was on our list of like, I think this could go pretty quickly if I buckle down and actually do it. One day I was thinking about it and started singing a melody, and I just grabbed my phone. And most songwriting, especially in the last 10 years, has been like an arduous labor. And this is a song that I basically improvised. I would say 98% of it is exactly what I sang in my phone the same time or the first time.
That's amazing. So an idea that's been sitting, rolling around in your head 3 years, came out almost nearly formed by the time it was ready.
Right. Yeah. And honestly, even the key is in a song or in a key I've never written in before. It's an F sharp major. And so I just put that phone recording into the computer and then figured out what the chords were with a little app called Circle of Fifths. I figured out what the chords were that would go under the melody. And from there, it was just a matter of like literally penciling in those chords and in a MIDI thing in Pro Tools and then putting a loop to it.
Very cool.
It's a very unusual, just to emphasize this point, like I've never had a song just come out like that. That's not normal.
It sounds like what you're telling me is, I mean, it was the words and the melody just basically rolled out at the same time.
Even the cadence, like the timing of some of the like lyrical lines, um, some of the rhythmic cadences that I used on this song. So for me, this one feels a little out of the box and a little bit of a progression or a forward growth as a songwriter, because I've always felt a certain frustration that I um, never have felt as free on the with my vocal delivery or with my guitar playing as I did as a drummer, and that I knew that there was further for me to go. And this song kind of broke over the horizon, I guess, of where I think I can go.
Hey, let me turn the conversation a little bit. Let's talk about the lyrics of your song because I love, um, like a good novel, like that first line seems to make all the difference in the world. And I love it's just one word, fear.
Fear.
And then the next line, hanging in the air. I mean, that's
We're building some suspense here.
well, yeah, I agree, and I'm not sure if that's what you were going for, but definitely, the length of the lines do build some suspense. But what I love the most about it is you're immediately somewhere, right? Because I think everybody knows what it feels like to have fear hanging in the air, and so
Right.
immediately that the first what 5 words, and you're somewhere at the beginning of the song. And I think that's that's really successful. I mean, is that kind of where you started, or did you kind of
Honestly, this is really
come
funny.
back to that later, or?
Yeah, I'm coming back to it now. I literally have not thought about it at all like that. And you know, this is a great exercise because it's actually like, oh yeah, totally. Actually, there's all these goals I've had, and it's interesting to think about it in the sense of like even like fear. Oh, I established like an emotion first, and then the atmosphere. Oh, I hadn't really thought. I didn't realize that I did that. I'm just being honest. Like I had really not processed it.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. But my other question is too, when you pulled out your phone to sing down this idea, was that the first line that came out, or did you kind of rearrange later?
No, it was totally the first line. I was just trying to describe like what the things that freeze us up and keep us from making progress. Um, I was just trying to describe like how that like the thing there's certain negative emotions that can just really stop us. There's always like these negative things that if you let them will just keep you from doing what you know you need to do in your gut.
I love how the second verse kind of answers the last line. Well, the chorus does too, but the last line of the first verse says, I need the darkness to break so I can get on my way, as if I can't do it until this happens. But, the chorus comes in, put one foot in front of the other. The second verse starts with, I'm going to do the next right thing. And
Right.
it's almost like, a decision has been made by the second verse.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's definitely like pointing, I think, to the fact that like, in the context of this song, like it is a choice that's in your it has much more to do with your will to do something in a lot of cases. Um, that's the biggest obstacle.
I love it. I mean, what I love a lot about the second verse is I hear a lot of the Nate that I know in it.
Huh.
I hear your raisin in it, if you want to say it that way.
What do you
You,
mean by
you,
that?
I put my hand to the plow. I am not turning around. I have decided.
Yeah, I mean, I would be totally bullshit if I didn't own the fact that like that's all church language from my childhood.
That's what I'm talking about. And you're supposed to write what you know. And some people
Right.
are afraid of those things,
I,
but
I've been terrified of it. And honestly, a few years ago I had a couple breakthroughs where I was just like, you know what? Like um I'm just going to start rewriting some of these stories that I grew up on in my own language. Um so and that frankly that the first Shiny Shiny Black record, Travelers, like I would say a good third of the songs on that records are basically my retelling of biblical narratives.
I guess I guess the most important thing is I love the fact that I hear Nate in those lyrics because there's a lot of other people out there who have similar background, and when they hear those words, they get it. And that's all we're ever looking for as
Right.
artists.
Exactly.
And so there's this guy, pretty famous guy, who wrote a book on writing, and he says, don't try to write for people. Write for yourself because there will be somebody out there who will get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I completely agree with that at this point in my life. You know, um, and the people who don't, like, it's not a big deal. Like, I'm not trying to connect with everybody. There's a lot of people in this world who have no framework to really connect or relate to my life for a variety of reasons, or my experiences or my perspective. And that's okay. You know,
Definitely. Well, hey, man, I'm going to wrap up the interview
Yeah.
part of the deal.
Hmm.
I just want to thank you for like participating.
Dude, I'm
And
honestly honored.
and I can't wait to have some folks out there, especially as part of our community, hear your experience and be inspired to kind of, keep working and, be themselves and maybe even be a part of this little sort of mini podcast thing that we've been doing. So thanks
I love it,
again.
man.
I totally appreciate it.
Can I interview you sometime?
Sure, that'd be fun. Sure, that'd be fun.
I would love to do that.